Welcome to Duke Devil 95. My name is Brad Burnett, and we are now on episode 3 of D Plus's MCU Slow Burn Spy Thriller. Oh, such a good slow burn. Secret Invasion. Again, we are treated to an episode with not a lot of action, but plenty of talking. And we start off by seeing that Gravik, the leader of the Skrull army, has recruited 3 of his rebels to pose as British sailors and board a British submarine for the purpose of attacking a UN delegation. He tells us this is his plan to the Skrull Council, who he meets with, and explains that that's not all the plan. You see, after they attack the UN delegation, it's going to start a war for some reason between U.S. and Russia, I guess. There's going to be a war because the UN gets attacked.
I'm trying, but I'm not quite following your logic.
Anyway, Gravik says that's going to cause the Earth superheroes to get involved. And in order to fight them, we need superpowers, which he has a plan for. And yes, we finally get the words. They're going to become Super Skrulls.
All of us. Super Skrulls.
After that brief intro, we get to our very enjoyable AI-generated intro scene, which, I really haven't talked about before, but it really is quite disturbing in the way that you don't know what it is all about. I suppose it's supposed to make you unnerved in the sense of the Skrull invasion makes you unnerved since you don't know who's who. But all it seems like to me is the AI has the mentality of a 5-year-old that likes to torture small animals and draw weird pictures. We then flash back to 1998, where we see Nick Fury meeting with one of his Skrull spies that he's recruited. And this turns out to be his future wife, Priscilla, whose Skrull name is actually Vara. There's some flirting going on, and then we flash forward to the present day, where we pick up from the last episode. We see Nick Fury and his wife in their house together. He's eating breakfast, and she's a little, perturbed at Nick. He's come back suddenly, and she basically explains to Nick that, you've begun all this time. I understood what you did and why you did it back when, you were running S.H.I.E.L.D. But now that you've kind of retired and, I don't get it now. After the blip, Fury disappeared, so she mourned for Fury's death, and then he came back, and she thought, oh, great, he's back. But then he flitted off to the Saber space station, and he's barely come home, and she's kind of not happy about it, because that ain't quite husbandly duty. So once again, guess what? Nick Fury, yeah, he's kind of a dick.
What a dick.
Anyway, Nick is kind of suspicious of his wife. Asks if she's heard from Gravik. She gets a mysterious phone call, but he's still just suspicious. Speaking of being suspicious, that's how Gravik is towards Gaia. And he wonders if she was the one who maybe leaked the information of the location of their secret hideout. She tries to say no, it was Brogan, the Skrull that he had executed last episode. And then he tells her, look, we're going to go to London because we're going to meet your dad for this parlay. So they go to a museum in London and exchange some unpleasantries in front of a painting. Eventually go to a cafe in the museum and decide to have a sit down. And, Talos is trying to convince Gravik, you shouldn't be doing this. I don't understand why you're trying to do this. And Gravik is like, look, the humans are going to destroy themselves. We're here and we're going to take over now. And Gravik keeps trying, poke at Talos, get him angry at him by talking about the fact that Gaia, joined him. And at one point, Talos goes after Gravik, and it's revealed that everyone in this cafe area, they're all Skrulls and they all work for Gravik. So they all shapeshift back to the humans portraying. Gravik and Talos go back and forth about, what the danger is of trying to fight the humans, and Talos is telling him like humans are formidable foes when you challenge them. And at one point, after Gravik brings up Gaia again, Talos stabs Gravik in the hand with a knife, storms off, and before storming off, though, he kind of pulls Will Smith and says, I don't want to hear my daughter's name in your mouth again. Total Will Smith smacking Chris Rock at the Academy Awards. But the interesting thing is, as Talos leaves, we see Gravik with the knife in his hand, and he pulls the knife out, and you see the hand is sort of split, but it forms back together, kind of like he's already got the extremis serum in him. So it looks like Gravik already's got some superpowers. Later on, Fury meets up with Talos in a British pub and tells him he's found a lead on a Skrull highly placed in the US government who may be in London. Talos apparently still kind of pissed at Fury after their last argument where Fury kicked him off the train. Says, I don't work for you. And if Fury wants something, he's going to have to, ask for Talos's help. And this is exchange between the two of them. At first I thought it was sort of buddy cop routine when this was all starting. And now it seems like a quasi dysfunctional married couple where neither one of them wants to admit they're in a relationship. It's problematic. They don't know how to make it work. It's annoying. Eventually they decide to work together. Talos tells Fury that he has some intel from Gaia about Gravik's plan to take over a British sub. So Fury then calls Sonya Farnsworth, who eventually gives him some information about Commodore Robert Fairbanks, who's the submarine's commander, but apparently is not on the submarine at the time it's out to sea. I don't understand how that works. I guess he's commanding the sub from his manor in Portsmouth. Anyway, Nick and Talos go off to get Bob, as Nick likes to call him. And on the way, our dysfunctional married couple get into yet another argument. And we find out again, we've already found out that Nick is a bad husband. He spent a lot of time away from his Skrull wife. And then when he came back from being blipped out, he really didn't come home. So he's a bad husband. And now we find out that, Fury, the only reason he got to where he is because he was relying on the Skrulls. So all this idea that we had about Nick Fury being super spy, knowing everything, being on top of everything, it's only because he employed this system of Skrull spies that he recruited in the late 90s after he met him in Captain Marvel. So Nick Fury now continues to be taken down another notch. God forbid we have this character maintain any position of authority or any ability to command whatsoever.
Oh, what a loser!
He's entirely reliant on a bunch of aliens who basically he's conscripted and forced them to work for him.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Oh, that's not right.
Fury and Talos get to Bob's house, and after taking out some guards to get inside, Talos goes ahead to find Bob, who is apparently, the Skrull in disguise as Bob. Along the way, we find out that the real Robert Farnsworth's son is in the house. So Fury gets a communication from Talos saying, tells Nick, I've got him. I got him. I got Bob. Nick, I've got Bob. And it's a point that he says Nick. He says Nick. Because you see, as Nick Fury tells Bob when he comes into the room and finds that Bob is now holding Talos at gunpoint. He says, no one calls me Nick Bob. So that's the giveaway. So anyone who calls Nick Fury Nick is actually a Skrull. So now we have a standoff. And what does this standoff involve? This is the part that I love. So, like I said, real life, real human Commodore Farnsworth's kid is in the house. So what does Nick Fury do? Nick Fury literally takes the kid, drags him in the room, and points the gun at him, and a standoff. I want you to think about this just for 1 second. The standoff that we're having right now. So we got Commodore Skrull Bob holding Talos at gunpoint, and we got Nick Fury with the human child of Commodore Farnsworth pointed a gun at his head, saying, basically, if you don't let Talos go, I'm going to kill the kid. What the F?
What the fuck?
This is Nick Fury's plan.
Fury, you son of a bitch.
I may be thinking now Nick Fury is not the great strategic mind that we thought he was, because he's literally threatening a Skrull with the possibility of killing a human kid who the Skrull doesn't care anything about. If someone can figure out the logic of that, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. While this is all going on in Bob's house, we see the British sub, the Neptune, getting into position. Gravik's Skrull agents are in place, preparing to launch the missile. They get the order to launch from Bob, and there's some debate on the sub as to whether or not they should be doing it. And just in case you're concerned of, how we as the audience knows that this plane is in fact carrying a UN delegation, don't worry, because the geniuses at Marvel have found a way to do it. Yes, true believers, they have literally labeled the plane UN. That's right, giant, big ass UN on the side of the plane. Can't miss this one, people. Fury and Talos try to get the code from Bob to stop the strike. They realize they can't, so Talos calls up Gaia. Gaia goes in, finds real Bob's body, which is hooked up to the mind machine, so that Skrull Bob can read his mind, and sorts out the code word is the name of Commodore Farnsworth's son, Zachary. The code word is given, and the launch is called off. But guess what? Here's the best part. This whole thing was apparently never meant to happen, because we find out the only reason this is going on, this Gravik put this plan in place to figure out who the spy in his group was. He wanted to sort out if Gaia was being true to the cause or a spy. Turns out she's not. She realizes her cover is blown when she gives out the password, makes a run for it. Gravik catches her outside of Skrull Town and then kills her. That's right. Just shoots her dead. So now, there goes Mother of Dragons. The episode finally ends. Thankfully, finally ends. This feels long. A lot of talking. Finally ends where we get the other great reveal. The last time we got the reveal that Nick Fury's wife is a Skrull. And like I said, he's suspicious as to whether or not she's working with Gravik or not. Well, she gets a call, and then goes to a bank and gets into a security deposit box and pulls out a gun. Then she gets a call, and on the other end of the call is a voice that sounds very much like Colonel James Rhodes. Yes, War Machine. Is it possible? Is it true? Is Rhodey a Skrull? That's what we're going to find out next time. But, of course, there's plenty of rumors on the internet and theories as to how we know he's a Skrull. Well, the prevailing theory is that he calls Nick Fury Nick. And you see, there apparently is precedent that no one calls Nick Fury Nick.
Everybody calls me Fury. Not Nicholas, not Joseph, not Nick. Just Fury. Yeah,
we got to go back to Captain Marvel, where he gives a throwaway line. Everyone calls me Fury, even my mom. But the question is that real? Because Marvel stands seem to think, yeah, that's it. No one calls Nick Fury Nick, except for the fact of, a few instances. Perhaps, maybe, has Tony Stark ever called Nick Fury Nick?
Does not mean
I'm
that we're
sorry,
making...
Nick. What were you lying?
How could I? It's almost dead, Nick. Felt it.
Has Captain America, Steve Rogers, a.k.a. Captain America, the Captain America, has he ever called Nick Fury Nick?
A lot of things you don't know about me.
I know, Nick. That's the problem.
Maria Hill, remember her? Very sad that she died. Has she ever called Nick Fury Nick.
Tell Klein we'll meet him at...
So this whole theory that only, only people who don't know who Nick Fury really is call him Nick.
Side has to be delayed.
Nick, it's not a favor. That's a subcommittee hearing. Along.
Don't do this to me, Nick.
I'm glad you're here, Nick.
Really?
I really feel like so many of these fans are trying to fit the narrative for what they want, to go back to the idea that this is all connected. But it's become very apparent over the last few years that none of this is connected. These shows, these movies are being put together on the fly. And for a 6-episode series, this feels like it's patchwork. It feels like the narrative is very slow. Again, as I've said before, this is a 6-hour show that could be told in 2 hours. Invasion of the Body Snatchers did it. But you know what? We got to fill D+ with content of some sort, and I'm certain this will be very valuable when no one goes to see the Marvels in November of this year. So I guess next week we'll find out that Rhodey's a Skrull. We'll find out if Guy is really dead, and we'll sit around and yawn as more non-action occurs. Until next time, please click that subscribe button, click a like button, share it, leave some comments, or witticisms, whatever you like. And I'll see you later.